Hey, welcome to PoliSci-Dam. One of the things I want to start doing with my videos is adding in political quotes from a breadth of different sources to kind of set the stage for my videos. So, of course, my first one has to go to Plato. Quote, "One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors." End quote. All right, let's get to the video. My last two videos have been pretty structured in my scripts. So this one I'm kind of going to be jumbling around because I'm just going to free form from some bullet points. So on this one, I want to talk about political legitimacy. So let me do this. Alrighty. So I'm going to be taking this concept from Max Weber, who was the one who really kind of created the idea of political legitimacy. So it's been existing for a long time, but Max Weber really kind of put some criteria to it and put words to the idea, so to speak. And because I am pretty new to this video and doing all this stuff, I think I'm eventually going to be coming back to all these videos and adding more content and do like the version 2.0 of everything as I kind of come along. So this is definitely not going to be the end-all be-all of political legitimacy, but I'm just kind of going to get some ideas out there and then also kind of show in some of the Gundam chronologically point out some political legitimacy so you can kind of attach some ideas to these concepts. So I am taking this from Plato Stanford EDU entries in legitimacy. I'm also going to be linking this in. So according to Weber, there's three main authorities of legitimacy. There's a whole heck of a lot more. You can just kind of equate it to any idea that would... I'll explain the definition. So this is from the Legitimacy. I'm butchering that. The basis of every system, legitimacy is the basis of every system of authority and correspondingly of every kind of willingness to obey. Is a belief by virtue of which persons exercising authority are lent prestige. So it's essentially any justification for why this person or this kind of bureaucracy or state is in power. There's also other types of legitimacy outside of this. So like eventually I'd like to get into legitimacy of warfare and such like that, because I'm taking a international peace and war course. So I'd like to kind of add some of that stuff later on, especially we're going to be going over nuclear deterrence. And if I could do the, I believe it's the Antarctic peace treaty or armistice of the 1-year war, in which the agreement of no nuclear weapons in tandem with the prevention of colony drops. I'd really like to look at that and just kind of go along with the stuff that I'm learning now. So that's a really exciting thing for the future that I'd like to do. So a real easy way to kind of do political legitimacy. So say you're on side 3 and some Joe Schmo just runs up to you and says, "Hey, I need some of your tax money for what have you." You'd say, "Kick rocks, man. I don't owe you anything." But say Degwin Zabi rolls up to you and says, "Hey, really need your tax money so we can put it towards our efforts for independence from the Earth Federation." You'd say something along the lines of Sig Zeon. So that in and of itself is political legitimacy. You see them as the rightful ruler of your state, and you're willing to compromise on taxes and other forms of giving up your individual freedoms for the state, so the state can, so the state has its capacity to do whatever policies it wants to. So in this, I'm switching over to the types of authority. So, like I said, this is no way the comprehensive list of the ways in which legitimacy are kind of categorized. There's infinite, I've seen so many different types of how you can kind of categorize it, but again, just think of it any way that a person can say, hey, I deserve this right to rule. So he broke it up into three. So the first is rational legal, the second is charismatic, and then the third is traditional authority. So I'm going to kind of go through this, and I'll add in some examples from our history, and then also some in the universal century. So the philosopher and Scientologist, or sociologist, not Scientologist, Max Weber discerns three types of authorities: traditional, legal, rational, and charismatic. And each of them conform to a certain type of leadership. So I'm going to roll down. So traditional authority, that is going to be like your hereditary monarchy. So we would see the crown in the UK. You could also kind of look around the entire globe. So any power that's going to be passed down through its bloodline can be a traditional authority. It doesn't always have to be, but it generally is. So you'd see that with side 3, so Daegwon Zabi. There was a shift from, it would be a legal authority as Zeon Zoom Daikun. I have to check on what type of system side 3 has, but is most likely there's my dog. It would have most likely been a parliamentary system in which the legislative branch, whatever party dominated, would have their representative as the PM. I don't know if it would have been a presidential system in which side 3 would have voted in a separate election for their representative of the why am I blanking? The executive branch. So I'll have to double check on that. But originally side 3 being a legal authority in which Zeon Zoom Daikun, by whatever mechanism, got elected. And then once he started doing his declaration for independence, we did see some independence movements come along. They did gain some independence. And then you can kind of see that into it also still be a legal authority. But once he was assassinated by the Zabis and Daegwon Zabi made his ploy for the office, he used his, let's say, legitimacy as being a disciple of Zeon Zoom Daikun to say, hey, you all love Zeon Zoom Daikun. Great guy, wants us to be independent. Guess what? I was his #1 student in the academia. When he taught at my college, this is parts from The Origin, in the very last, it was book 7 or 12. At the very end, the kind of extended stories, it goes into when Daegwon Zabi was the chancellor of a collegiate organization on side 3, and I believe Zeon Zoom Daikun was a professor, and that's how they got acquainted. And because Daegwon became so close to Zeon, he became a disciple of sorts. So he's essentially saying, hey, I was a disciple of Zeon before anybody else. I know all of his policies, all of his thought patterns. I know the ideology head to toe. I'm your man. So essentially that becomes his traditional authority. He starts a principality in which the system changes from a democratic system to an authoritarian system. And then that's when you see the traditional authority start, in which it would be, what was the eldest son? Giran Zabi, in which when Daegwon died, Giran would be next, and then it'd roll through the family system. So that's a real life example where you can see the UK crown and the family there, and then also the comparative in UC, which would be the Zabi family. And then going back a little bit further into origin. So I'm taking some of this from the origin, in which the final battle, in which Selah Mass, or I forget her actual name in the Daikun family. So please correct me on that. I'm kind of just running off the top of my head, in which some of the Zeon soldiers actually recognize that she is from the Daikun family, and then we see that political faction splinter off from Zeon. They say, oh shit, fucking Selah is a Daikun. So what have we been believing the fucking zombies for? We can't. They probably assassinated Zeon, so we got to support Selah. So that's a conflict of legitimacy, especially in the hereditary. Even though Zeon never set himself as a hereditary leader, because of his authority as a legal authority and all of the legitimacy that he gained as pushing for the new type theory and independence for Side 3, that trickled down to Selah, and then eventually Shar. So we really see that conflict of legitimacy in the zombies and then the Daikuns sporadically through the UC. So you can see that there. Some drawbacks to traditional authority. Traditional authority is based on some dominant power, so it can generally be seen as authoritarian, as opposed to with the UK, in which it is a democratic system, but the crown is more of a state representative. So they're the ones seeing state representatives from across the globe. They don't really have any authority over the legislative branch. The real executive with power is going to be the prime minister, and that's also a part of the parliamentary system. So that isn't always a drawback. Another drawback is a traditional leader might exploit or rely on prevailing practices. And then the other is a traditional authority may suffer from lack of moral regularity in the creation of legal standards. So if it's an authoritarian leader and he's doing his thing, how do you create a legal system around that? Everybody within your bureaucracy is going to be taking some extra money. So how is that employed to regular civilians and the legal standards? So the next is charismatic authority. So charismatic authority can be defined as the power legitimized by exceptional, unusual, and extraordinary personal abilities which inspire devotion and obedience. Weber identified this extraordinary attribute as charisma, where Robert Bierstedt called it leadership and not an authority at all. So again, you can see Zeon Zum Daikun, in which he had legal authority as some sort of executive within Side 3, and then he also had charismatic authority because of his new type theory and how much love he had from Side 3 to his cause. Again, from charismatic leaders are seen as people who are inspired by God or by lofty unsocial principles. The charisma of these leaders is enough and adequate to inspire their followers and make the authority seem legitimate. So again, real world examples, Mahatma Gandhi, Stalin, and these don't have to be authoritarian or democratic. It can be with either system. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm saying a lot of more political science terms, but I'll be explaining those in additional videos. So I'm sorry for the confusion on some of that, but I will eventually get to all of these. I'm just kind of describing political legitimacy first, and I'd like to do a lot more baseline political terms, so then you can really understand when I'm saying some of these things. And then obviously charismatic authorities for the UC, we'd see Shar, we'd see his father Zeon, Maneva, Zabi later on, off the top of my head. I forget the leader of Cosmo Babylonia later on in the UC, but their ideology was also very charismatic, so you can see that as well. So there's quite a few different examples. Let me also look at my notes. Boom. Okay, no additional notes. Alrighty, let's continue on. Oh, and also another example, freaking Hitler, because of his ideology to kind of maximize the population towards an end goal. And then also Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great, Winston Churchill, and such like that. So some drawbacks. Charismatic authority is inherently unstable and mostly short-lived because this guy is super charismatic. This person is very charismatic. What about the person following up? They may be nowhere near as charismatic. So in a sense, that charismatic leader really needs to kind of put their pedal to the metal and make their state and bureaucracy really stable, because once they pass, there's a tendency for it all to kind of crumble away without that really solid structure. Again, also it has no rules or tradition to guide or monitor conduct, as it is based on the unique characteristics of the individual. So just kind of, again, that charismatic leader, if he wants his state to continue on once he's gone, he really needs to put the pedal to the metal and start building that tradition and code of conduct, so that not just himself is seen as legitimate, but his entire state and his bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is just kind of like the middlemen. So you'd say people within the FBI are bureaucracy because they're the ones that aren't elected and are the ones that continue to keep the state running regardless of who's in power at the time. And then legal/rational authority. Excuse me. Oh, goodness. So legal authority can be defined as the bureaucratic authority. I'm glad I just kind of defined a little bit of bureaucracy, but again, I'm going to go on later on and create more, especially one about bureaucracy, because it's really interesting. Where power is legitimized by legal enacted rules and regulations such as governments. So this is less towards one person, but a little bit more of the overall system. So let's say that charismatic leader really did create the system. They have all these laws. They're being implemented across the board. So the rule of law is the law is being followed by everybody. It's across the board, so nobody is feeling cheated like the system's rigged against them. And then it's also creating a bunch of laws to protect its citizens. These laws are being enacted, they're being followed, and the people actually believe that these laws are just and are for their benefit, not just arbitrary. So some of the drawback, correction, let me go back. Some legal rational authority. So these would definitely be seen as the systems of the Earth Federation on how legal and rational they are, but they do have that tried and true system of, hey, these have been followed for 60 some odd years. I have to double check when the Earth Federation was founded, but they do have that timeline. They do have that history, so they can be seen as legal and rational regardless. They weren't just created in a day, and they do have a legal system, a judicial system, and such like that. So they do have that solid foundation regardless of the actions of the people at the top. Some drawbacks. Legal rational authority manifests the power of bureaucracy over individuals. So you can see that kind of that collective mindset. Bureaucracy may not be able to completely address the concerns or problems of everyone. Modern societies depend on legal rational authority to figure out a common ground, achieve consensus. But consensus based on agreement lacks flexibility, which embodies the dominant of bureaucratic mentality for which the government services are often accused. So because of that, because of the time constraints of getting that consensus, they aren't seen as very flexible. And the overarching mentality of the bureaucracy, that collective mindset, won't always touch on all the issues, and it won't fix all the issues. So that's why government bureaucracy can be seen as not the most complete. So those were some of the bases of legitimacy. Let's see if there's anything else. So, oh yeah, I love this Plato Stanford EDU. Descriptive, normative concepts, functional plea. Justifying power, creating political authority. Oh, I can't wait for this 2.0 video for whenever I do it. So I'm going to do some sources for political legitimacy. So where does the political legitimacy stem from? So the first is going to be consent. So this is going to be your populace giving their consent to whatever body, whatever individual, saying, hey, I believe in you. I give you legitimacy. So that is, so backing up a little bit, there's two forms of overall legitimacy. So separating from what types of legitimacy, there's a thing called internal legitimacy, and then there's also external legitimacy. So let's say we're all within one state, and one guy says, hey, I want to be your ruler because of this, this, and this. Everybody within that state says, boom, I like it. I'm signing up for you. I'm giving you my consent. That would be internal legitimacy. The people within that state are giving their consent and are saying, hey, yep, you're my guy. Then there's external legitimacy. So everybody outside of the state. So we could see the United States. Hey, everybody votes. Everybody believes in the system. Hey, we are giving President Biden legitimacy. Now, what about everybody else? Syria says, oh, well, yeah, I guess we believe in you. Okay. Russia. Okay, yeah, I guess we believe in you. You held a legit election. We believe in you. That would be external legitimacy. So that is a kind of real down and dirty of internal and external. So generally you want both. So right now, to be really considered a state, you need internal legitimacy, and then you also need external. So the criteria for external right now is recognition by the UN. So the UN and all of its member states would have to say, yep, you are a legitimate state. Taiwan is not seen as a legitimate state. It used to be up until the 70s, I believe, and then they changed their stance. The UN changed its stance and said, no, mainland China, Taiwan's a member of mainland China. So it can always shift. And then also internally, my professor always likes to use the example of, I believe it was Denmark during World War II. So the Nazis steamroll through, the royal family flees, Nazis are in control. They have control of everything, but they do not have the consent of the people. So in a sense, through that stream of giving legitimacy, they didn't have it. People still believed in the royal family that was even out of the state, were still the legitimate rulers. So even though you have power over a state and are running the show, you might not have that internal legitimacy. So so the first stream or source was consent. The second is going to be beneficial consequences. So in the utilitarian view, legitimate political authority should be grounded on the principle of utility. This concept of legitimacy is necessary, a moralized one. The legitimacy of political authority depends on what morality requires. Study of contemporary Locke may be seen as a precursor for utilitarian approach to political legitimacy, as he rejected voluntarism and endorsed the idea that political legitimacy depended on principles of rational prudency instead. Distinctive political, not moral or legal source. He rejected the social contract. I'll get into that another time because that's very Hobbesian in Locke. Also, I believe Max Weber did the social contract as well. So beneficial consequences. Hey, I'll believe in the system because I'm going to get something out of it, is pretty much a down and dirty of it. So you could say, hey, Principality of Xeon, I'm gonna get these awesome. I'm Xeonic. Hey, I'm gonna get these awesome benefits if Xeon is in charge. The Principality of Xeon is in charge. Cool. I'm gonna give them my legitimacy. Oh goodness, excuse me. And that coffee is good. Number 3, public reason and democratic approval. So, public reason accounts tend to focus on the problem of justifying political coercion. The solution they propose is that political coercion is justified if it supports on the basis of reason that all reasonable persons can share. So even if the government coerces you, so long as the purpose is to support the base of the reason, hey, I'm gonna fucking force you to do this, but it's gonna be to save you in the end away from Federation forces, and you're going to be independent, and you're not going to have to be subjected to Earthnoid rule, but you're going to have to join. You're going to have to do this stuff for me and help me in the war. Democratic approval, that can be through parliamentary system, the blended system where it's a mishmash of parliamentary and presidential, and then also the presidential system. So going through a democratic process of, okay, yes, we voted for you, you won the majority, you won the electoral college, you get our legitimacy. And then it's political legitimacy and democracy. And I'm just browsing through the rest of Plato Stanford, just kind of seeing if there's anything that I missed. Again, this is totally not comprehensive. I'm definitely going to come back and I'm going to redo this because I'm just kind of doing it off the cuff. And I'm going to kind of learn as I go. Political nationalism. That's going to be an awesome topic for later. Political cosmopolitanism. That's going to be nice. So this is, let's double check. So I've covered how to gain legitimacy, real life examples, internal, external. I gave a few examples. Wow, okay. That's pretty much it. Oh, sweet. I'm at 29 minutes. I'm doing this from my phone because I don't really know like how to really do all the setup. So it's a trial by error. But some other things that I'd like to eventually kind of go across. I definitely need to do my political terminology. So I've done legitimacy now. I can always come back and do a 2.0, but also I want to do bureaucracy. I want to do capacity. So that's essentially, is the government able to do what it sets out to do? Obviously have to do the monopoly on power. So I'm going to do a lot of baseline political terminology. And then as we kind of go, I want to get a little bit more advanced. And as I get better, I will be better with my layouts and everything. So it's just really exciting, especially because I'm learning how to describe these terms and how to do it efficiently and correctly. So I love learning about this stuff, and teaching it makes it instilled in me so much more, and it's just fun, and I get to talk about Gundam. So some other things I wanted to talk about after political terminology, if I could do the new type theory and how that relates to a lot of ideological theories in the 20th century. I could do mob rule, oligarchies, dictatorships, democracy, aristocracies, monarchies. So that's going to be a lot along the lines of Aristotle's politics, which is going to be really fun. Obviously, political organs, internal security services, secret police, and shenanigans like that, democracy and republics. Protests, climate change policies, judiciary bodies, executive bodies, legislative bodies, rights and constitutions, deportation. That's going to be a big thing for the beginning of the UC. Soft power and hard power concepts. These are some of my notes for like nationalism in Gundam Thunderbolt, as well as in the sides, Zionism, and how they can differentiate depending on the side that you were a part of, and kind of like space noidism. Religious theocracies, that's another one from Gundam Thunderbolt that I really want to do. Types of government. Why you need a figurehead, Cosmo Babylonia, as ruled by the few, doing the comparison of Geirin and Hitler and the Spacenoid supremacy theory, along with the Zion's new type theory, other parts of the UC as a parallel to the Industrial Revolution for new ideas and how they can work. And then again, sorry, I'm going back to political legitimacy. So this was another note. So in Char as in 0093, so when he goes to take over the remnants of Zion for, that would be the, that would be the official Neo-Zeon, I believe. Please correct me, because there's the Zeon remnants, then there's Hamon's Zeon, but I've seen kind of contradictory things on Gundam Wiki about if they are still considered the first Neo-Zeon or the second Neo-Zeon, so please correct me on that, and then when I do the second 2.0 video of this, I can have that correct. So taking over Neo-Zeon as a war hero, and also using the legitimacy as the son of Zeon and his military distinction, so that's multiple layers. So we see the heretical aspects, as he's saying, hey, I am the son. I am Casval Rem Daikun, I believe it is. I am the son of Zeonzum Daikun. I inherited all of his philosophy. I should be the figurehead. He's also using his legitimacy as a war hero. Hey, I fought for you guys in the 1-year war as Char Aznable. And then, war hero and legitimacy as a son and military distinction. So that was another kind of caveat to, so you see kind of how they can blend together and how they can kind of shift. So like a legal authority can shift to a heretical or a traditional authority, and then also that heretical or traditional authority can shift into a legal and rational, dependent on its context. And it can be a cycle. It can shift in multiple ways. Pardon me. So that is kind of the down and dirty on legitimacy. Please let me know if there's other ideas that you'd like me to cover. Again, also thank you so much. It's been a few weeks since I've done a video. So I'd like to start doing this more. So again, I'm PoliSci-Dam. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm really excited for your input, and have an awesome one. Bye-bye.